So we'll start our session by paying our obeisances to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. And we are at chapter 2. So as we saw, so we have 18 chapters in Gita, and we have divided into 3 parts. The first part is Karma Yoga, which majorly focuses on Karma Yoga aspect. And we are now in the second chapter, which is titled as Contents of Gita Summarized, which has 72 shlokas. And with the second chapter, we have completed the first 3 sections. And today we are going to cover the 4th section, which is Nishkama Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga. Yeah? And next week we will target to, we'll complete half the session of today and then continue with Nishkama and start with Sthita Prajna, which is the last section of second chapter next week. Okay, so thank you, Biswaji, for your note. So we did yoga ladder last time, right? Last week. So can any of you tell me, what is the most bottom part of the yoga ladder?
As last time, as we learned yoga like bhakti, faith, meditation.
Yeah. So what was the most bottom part of it? So bhakti is at the top. Learned about different kind of yogas, right? The yoga ladder, the steps. So what was in the first one we learned about? We learned about Karma Kanda.
Yeah.
Right. So Karma Kanda was about fruitive workers, right? So we learned how these people are more, they follow Vedas, right? And they perform, activities for their sense gratification, right? But according to the scriptures, they expect results, right? And after Karma Kanda, here is where the yoga ladder starts. So what was the next step we learned? So after Karma Kanda, we learned Sakam Karma Yoga. That is, so the category of people who approach God, who approach Krishna, but, and they expect results, right? For their sense gratification as well. But they know, they follow Krishna. And then came, can somebody say, this was the first rung of the ladder we learned, which falls within the yoga ladder. After Sakam comes
Nishkama Karma Yoga.
Thank you. Nishkama Karma Yoga, yeah. So Nishkama Karma Yoga are where they perform the work. They are attached to the work, but they are not attached to the results of the work, right? They renounce the results of the work. And after Nishkama Karma Yoga, we learned Jnana Yoga. Yeah, Jnana Yoga is where they are not attached to work, neither the results of work, but they are in knowledge. Right? And after Jnana Yoga is the most popular yoga, which we also learned. Can somebody tell me?
It is Dhyana Yoga.
Yes, Ashtanga Yoga. Thank you. So Dhyana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, right? So this is where they renounce, further step, where they renounce the work. They are not attached to the work, not attached to the results. And they are in knowledge, but the added piece here is meditation, right? They are controlling their mind and senses through meditation. And then is the topmost, which is Bhakti Yoga, or we also call it as Buddhi Yoga, yeah, where it is the main component here, which is added to all the rungs, is the love component, right? Now, this is what we, learned on the yoga ladder. So today I'm going to just share some examples on those different rungs of the ladder, okay? So the first example is Valmiki. I think most of us know who Valmiki is, right? So Valmiki is, he was really he was a dacoit, right? And he, we are showing here that how, when we talk about these yoga ladder, yeah, when we talk about these different rungs of yoga ladder, from any part of the yoga ladder, there can be a direct lift process to Bhakti Yoga, right? You don't necessarily need to go into each rung, right? You can directly go into Bhakti Yoga. And we are here sharing some examples where people from each of these rungs, yeah, and even out of this rung was sinful activities, right? So even from each of that level, how they directly got into Bhakti Yoga without undergoing each of these steps, okay? So Valmiki is an example for, for sinful reactions. So we learned, the first thing we learned last time was sinful actions, right? This is not part of the yoga ladder, right? And Valmiki, he was a dacoit, but he came in association with a pure devotee who is Narada, right? And how Narad Muni, as soon as he came across Narad Muni, the influence of that pure devotee, Narada made him say that, if you cannot, say Ram, 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 at least say Ram, 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 Ram. And Valmiki just followed, saying, he used to chant continuously Maram, 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 Maram. And when you chant it continuously, you'll see that eventually it gives you the sound of Ram, right? It's the other way around, Maram, 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 Maram. So from that, he could chant Ram, right? And that's where, from being a dacoit, he transformed. Yeah, he didn't follow the yoga ladder steps of, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga. So he did not follow that stepwise, but directly from sinful actions, from that level, he could achieve Bhakti Yoga. And the next example we have is Prachina Bhavishat. So he was a king. We have the story of this king in Bhagavatam. So he was a king who was an ideal example for Karma Kanda. Yeah. He did, what do Karma Kanda people do? They do all the rituals as per the Vedas, right? Because they expect fruits, results, right? Now, same with Prachina Bhavishat, he used to perform all the rituals per the scriptures for material gain, yeah, for his opulence, for his kingdom, yeah. So with an expectation of results, but according to the scriptures. And he also came across Narad Muni, and after meeting Narad Muni, he's a example who moved directly from Karma Kanda to Bhakti Yoga, yeah. And then Dhruva, I think we also are familiar with Dhruva. So Dhruva, at the age of 5, he went to the forest, to perform penances, because because he couldn't get that love from his father, right? So he went to the forest. He wanted to do the penances for what? Because he wanted, he wished to have a material, a kingdom, right? Much bigger than his father. So, but on his way to the forest, he met Narad Muni again, right? And when, after the penances, when he got the, he could see Narayana, he got the darshan of Narayana. He confessed that he was actually looking for, something like kingdom, which was like, a piece of broken glasses, rather than, and then he got, Narayana darshan, which is like a diamond. So he was wishing for something so pretty, right? That's what he realized. And then when Narayana asked him that, what would you like it was the time for which actually Dhruva performed all these penances, right? To gain a material kingdom much more bigger than his father. But when Narayana gave him the darshan and asked him, what do you want? Tell me, what do you want me to grant you? Dhruva said he would like to have, he requested for association of devotees. Okay, so that's the thing. So from a kind of Sakam Karma Yoga, this is what we call it, right? Because Dhruva had an initial, he wanted to worship Narayana, but with a, result oriented, with a sense gratification, right? Which was the kingdom bigger than his father. So, but he moved directly to Bhakti Yoga as well, as soon as he came in association with a pure devotee, right? And then we see Kumaras, the 4 Kumaras, son of Brahma. So they are a good example for, Gyan Yoga, because they were full in knowledge. Yeah, they were full in knowledge. They were detached to results. They were detached to work. But when they went to Vaikuntha, I would not, elongate this, but when they went to Vaikuntha and they cursed Jai Vijay, who were, who are the door stoppers of Vaikuntha for Krishna. So they did not allow 4 Kumaras to get into Vaikuntha. And 4 Kumaras in turn, they cursed Jai Vijay. And then, Narayana appeared there. But as soon as these 4 Kumaras, when they smelled, the tulsi of from the lotus feet of Narayana, their heart transformed. So they are, they turned into bhaktas, right? So they pure devotion. So they are a great example for, someone who was in Jnana and eventually, directly moved into bhakti. Yeah? And then Vishwamitra, right? Vishwamitra is an example who performed Ashtanga Yoga, right? Initially to have some results again, right? But eventually he with Vasishtha Muni, with confronting Vasishtha Muni, he also later on turned into bhakti. So he went into the path of bhakti yoga. Right? So these are just so that we can correlate how a person in each of the rungs of the yoga ladder, can directly move into bhakti without going stepwise. Okay. So here today I'll be presenting 2 things. One, so last week we looked into the ladder of normal path, right? Normal pathway of yoga ladder. This is a progressive pathway, right? So this progressive pathway is something where we can say that this more correlates with the pathway for us in today's world, right? So we start, the first rung here is Sakam Karma, which is Karma Karma, which is we start with following the scriptures, right? So regulated sense gratification as per the scriptures. And then Sakam, where we gradually, as we do the Karma Kanda activities, as per the Vedas, for following the process, we get gradual purification of the heart. And then we eventually, the next step is, moving to Sakam Karma Yoga. Here, due to gradual purification, we come to a stage where, the devotee approaches Krishna, but with a selfish desire, with a result oriented, right? I want this, please give me this. So with a result oriented approach. And then we move, with this performance, gradual purification, we go to Nishkama Karma Yoga, where the next rung is Nishkam, where the devotees have no desire for the fruits or for the results. Yeah, there is nothing called a self, centric. It is, they perform the work and only, for Krishna by practicing the limbs of bhakti, right? Which is chanting, hearing, reading. These are the different limbs of bhakti. So the devotee performs the work, prescribed work, and the work keeping Krishna in center, and with no results oriented. Yeah, and then eventually reaching gradually to pure bhakti, which is the highest perfection stage. Yeah? And this is an express elevator. Now, how did the prior examples which we gave had the express elevator? How did they get that? So Bhakti Yoga is the top one, right? It is, and we saw how in previous examples, just people meeting pure devotees, coming across with pure devotees, how it caused transformation of their heart, right? So they did not have to undergo like Sakam Karma Yoga or Nishkam Karma Yoga, right? They, wherever they were, they directly moved into Bhakti Yoga, yeah? So this is that express elevator, right? From sinful, we move by surrendering and with the association of pure devotees and surrendering to the Guru and Krishna, we initiate the devotional life, yeah? And we see some examples, right, who directly reached here. Narada Muni himself, who at the age of 5, lost his mom, and, he came across association of some rishis who came into his ashram, right? And with their association, he could transform himself directly. So these are the devotees who, so we see some fall into this immediate category. We saw Valmiki, right? How just by association, they start practicing, the limbs of bhakti, right? Chanting, hearing, right? And then they achieve the prema of Krishna, which is the highest stage, right? So any questions around? Yeah, Jyoti ji, I think you have raised.
Yes, I want to ask, if we have some desire, okay, we have some wish, and we are like, you can say that karma yoga, and we always want that, and when the wish will not fulfill, then there is some demotivation, okay, there is some demotivation. So how I can I can understand that, means how I overcome with this demotivation.
I think that is the key topic for today, actually. Performing your duties with not having that kind of expectation of results, right? And how we should, it gradually comes, right? It's not like one day show. It will gradually come. And as we perform these limbs of bhakti, last time we spoke about this, right? As we do chanting, so it's not that let everything settle down and then I'll start chanting. It's rather that start the chanting, reading and hearing.
Yes,
and
yes, yeah.
See how things, turn around, right? So with and that how when we, not expect the results, it kind of give us, the platform that we learn the art of sacrifice. And that will happen when we, when we keep Krishna inside, right? So leaving the results to Krishna, having that dependence on Krishna. And that we learn, in due course. The more the dependence happens, the more we see the detachment with the results. And we will cover that today. That's Nishkam Karma Yoga, right? It's not, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So we move to the topic today. Now, before I move in here, can somebody tell me what were the reasons why Arjuna did not want to fight? Because we have covered it quite some time so far. What were the reasons given by Arjuna that he doesn't want to fight?
Because he is in Maya.
There were 5 reasons, right? Yes, he was put under Maya by Krishna. But there were 5 top reasons which Arjuna gave that he doesn't want to fight. Like the first one was compassion to his relatives and friends. Anybody who has not spoken so far? Okay. So this is really important. Okay, so I would request you all to, go through the slides to really understand these reasons, because what we are covering right now is how Krishna is giving answers to these reasons which Arjuna gave. It's very important for us to understand those answers, to understand the queries which were raised by Arjuna and what were the background behind it. Yeah, what was the reason for them to do this? So The first reason was compassion towards friends and relatives. He was really compassionate, and we saw how Krishna addressed this in the section of from shloka 11 to 30 in the second chapter, where he says that the difference between body and soul, right? And how Arjuna should rather root his compassion towards soul, not the body, right? We studied how in detail on that. Then the second reason was that Arjuna gave that there will be no enjoyment even if he is victorious. Yeah. And this was the last week session which we covered, Sakam Karma Yoga. So Krishna, explaining to him how if he fights the battle, he will be, and if he is victorious, he's going to gain the earthly kingdom, right? He's going to rule the earth. And if he loses, because he has lost while performing his prescribed duty, he will get heavenly planet. So there is either ways, there is win-win situation for him, right? And then fear of sinful reactions is the third reason we gave, which we'll be covering today, a bit of it today. Now Arjuna gave the reason, right, that if he kills these people, then there will be sin, they will overcome sin, right? Now Krishna speaks how using the prior two sections, that is using the knowledge of body and soul, and with detachment to results, with that knowledge, Arjuna can overcome this. Yeah. So we'll move further. So what are the key highlights? So Arjuna wanted to avoid the war because he was full of sinful reactions. And then Krishna told him that, in fact, he not fighting will be not doing his prescribed duties, and that will rather incur sin. Not by killing aggressors like Duryodhana, there will be no sinful reaction. Yeah. Then to motivate Arjuna, how Krishna started, he first explained the jnana, which is the body and the soul, right? And then he started explaining karma, which is work. Yeah, work with results. That was the last week session. And today is work without the attachment to results. So Krishna is then asking Arjuna, work with knowledge and detachment, which is today's topic, Nishkama Karma Yoga or Karma Yoga. And in this section, we'll see how Krishna will explain how one can avoid all reactions by performing one's duty with detachment to results. Yeah. So this is the first shloka for today, equanimity in duality. So sukha dukkhe samavrit kritva labha labhau jayajau tato yudhyaya yuchasva naivam papam avapsyasi. Would somebody like to read it?
Did you share your screen? We cannot see them.
Cannot? Can others see my screen?
Yeah, we can see.
Yes.
I cannot.
Do you want to maybe dial back? Okay, so we'll go with Kavyaji. Will you be able to read it?
Yes. Hare Krishna. Though thou fight for the sake of fighting without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing you shall never incur sin.
Right, thank you. So Arjuna had said before, right, that he will incur sin by killing, people on the battlefield. But here Krishna is saying that he will not incur sin. Yeah. Why? Because Arjuna is doing his duty. So why will there be a sin, right? And Krishna is asking him, to fight without thinking about result, without thinking about loss or gain, victory or defeat. Yeah. So by thinking that if he steps back, in fact, that will be a sinful action, right? So it seems, that Krishna is saying here, fight with detachment to the result. And the result is what? Without considering loss or gain, victory or defeat, right? Now, this is contradicting the prior verse, right? Prior section, where Krishna says that at least fight, because by fighting, if you win, you will get earthly, kingdom to rule, right? So Krishna was saying before that, not only you will get earthly kingdom, but even if you lose, you will get heavenly planets. But now he's saying that, don't think about result, right? Don't worry about results. So we see that Krishna is changing his track overall, right? Now, why? Because we'll see that what we can see here overall is that the act of fighting is the same, right? But the change, what Krishna is asking Arjuna is that the motivation behind the fighting. Before he said is fight. Even now he's saying fight. He's saying to fight both sides, right? The same action. But we learned in those 9 sections that it's not the action, it's the consciousness behind that action, right? Which determines whether that action is right or not. So the same thing Krishna is saying here, even now he is asking Arjuna to fight, but to have a change of consciousness on the reason for fighting, right? So Krishna is gradually taking Arjuna now from, we see, Sakam Karma Yoga to Nishkam Karma, right? Sakam is fight because you are going to get either ways, win-win and, enjoyment. But now fight without any expectation of results. So changing the way, the motivation behind it, right? So this is like a gradual upliftment which Krishna is doing, from the into the yoga ladder. Now, further to this, Krishna says, how he's transitioning from one to other. So this shloka is really important. So, Eshati bihita sankhe buddhir yoge tva imam shunu buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. So Jyoti ji, are you back? So will you be able to read it?
Yes. Thus far, I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. O son of Partha, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. Bhagavad Gita 2.39.
Right. Thank you. So this is, we see this as a gradual transitional verse, right? Where Krishna is clearly saying that before he spoke about analytical study. Analytical means Sankhya, right? He mentions here in the word. This is the first time he's mentioning this word, Sankhya, right? So this is the analytical study of body and soul, right? He explained that. And then Krishna is, saying that afterwards that now listen as I explain to work without fruitive results, right? So after analysis of body and soul, Krishna explained about fruitive results, which was Sakam Karma. And then now he's saying that now I'm going to talk about Nishkam Karma, right? And this will free Arjuna from bondage or entanglement. Right? See, whether he also, mentions that free yourself from bondage of work, right? So anything we do, whether a good action or a bad action, both have reactions. Okay. And when we do an action and reaction, then there is a bondage, right? So we think that even if you do, it's very important to understand that even if you do good deeds in this life, we have to take birth again, next life to face those good deeds reactions. So there will be a reaction not only for bad deeds, but also good deeds, right? So at the end, may it be good or bad, we have to undertake birth cycle again, right? To face those good reactions or bad reactions. Right? So in following verses, we see how Krishna slowly takes us that, we should not think about these good and bad. We should go beyond the good and bad thought process. And we should go to the level or the platform of something called as Shuddha Sattva, right? That is, we have to do everything keeping in mind, as a duty, that we are doing it as a duty for Krishna, without results. Because when you expect results, we are bonded that by that work, right? May it be good or bad results, but that shows that we are binded by it. We are expecting, we are, having that result oriented mindset. Okay? Now, here the other word Krishna uses is buddhir yoge. Now, again, like last time I had said, we have to go with the flow the way Krishna is explaining Arjuna, right? In Bhagavad Gita, we cannot just pick up one verse and, interpret that this refers to this. So here, Buddhi Yoga refers to Nishkam Karma Yoga. Okay. Primarily, it is used for Nishkam Karma. Yeah. Whereas we see in Bhagavad Gita in later chapters, which is the second part, right? We are doing the first part of Bhagavad Gita, which has the first 6 chapters. As soon as we move into the second part of Bhagavad Gita, which is the second half, which focuses on Bhakti Yoga, we'll see that this, this is majorly used for Bhakti Yoga. Okay? So Bhakti Yoga, Buddhi Yoga is ultimately, what we use it for is for Bhakti Yoga. But here it is used in reference to Nishkam Karma. Yeah? And that's what Krishna is saying. Imam Shrunu. Shrunu means hear me. Now I'm going to tell you that for you to get outside, get off that karma bandhan, which is the bondage of work. Yeah. So we need to follow free, we need to act in such knowledge to not expect to work without fruitive results. Okay. And when Krishna is saying this, he is also highlighting, he is glorifying, in fact, the advantage of being in this Nishkam Karma or Buddhi Yoga. Yeah. So he shares, kind of this as an assurance, yeah, that there is no loss in this yoga. Yeah. So this is an important shloka. So neha bhikrama nashosti pratyavayo na vidyate swa alpam apiyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. So, Neeta Bhavi, will you be able to read it?
Yes. Hare Krishna. In this end ever, there is a no loss or a diminution, and a little advantagement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous types of fear.
Thank you. So Krishna is giving an assurance here, right? That there is no loss, in this yoga when we perform. We see that material activities, whatever we perform, whether be it our promotions within our job or be it our education, say today we are striving hard in this material world to really hit the top, role in your company. Yeah. But when you take your next birth, can you tell me, can we start, directly from that role within the company, or we have to start from scratch? What do you think? Right. Start from scratch, right? So Krishna is saying that might be with material things, right? But with Buddhi Yoga, with spiritual things, there is no loss. So if you are investing 10% in this life into spirituality, next life, there is an 100% assurance given by Krishna that you will start from 11%. You don't have to start from again 1%, right? Now we study, we work hard so much. If I have done so-and-so qualification, in my next life, I have to still start from nursery, right? I cannot directly say I will start. So that's the, most, glorifying thing about Buddhi Yoga. Yeah. Work in Krishna consciousness, the Krishna consciousness with us carries even when we take our next birth. There is no loss. We lose this body, but that consciousness, that effort, remains, right? So we continue from that level where we left. Yeah. At least when we perform some spiritual activity in this life, we should at least, we are sure to get a human birth in the next life. And we saw in those 9 sessions that it is so difficult to get this human birth, right? After, so many species, I think there are around 84 lakhs, right? After undergoing the cycle, human birth is something which is achieved, right? And if not just the human being birth, but Krishna later in chapters, he clearly mentions that if for the next life, for a devotee, if he's unsuccessful in this life, then they will be given, birth in a family of a Brahmana or a rich aristocratic family where they can have all the conveniences to continue their devotional practice. Yeah. So this is the unique quality of Krishna consciousness, that there is no loss. Yeah. And here it mentions one more important thing is Trayate Mahato Bhayat, right? So now, because that Bhayat means we know, this is a Hindi word, right? Right? We all feel fearful, right? We are attached so much to the results, to our day-to-day thing, that there is a huge fear in us that what if this doesn't turn up, right? We are always having one or the other timelines in our mind, the targets, right? And to achieve things, those materially, because we are attached to those results, fear is within us. Now, once we start, working in Krishna consciousness, we see that there is a gradual change that we start depending on Krishna more, and we have no expectation of the results. And those results, whatever we give, we take it as mercy of Krishna, right? Hence, when we are not doing an activity, looking forward for a particular result, then why will there be a fear in us, right? There will be no fear because we are not worried about results. We are living it on Krishna. We are depending on Krishna. And whatever comes, we have a better mindset to take it as it is. Yeah. So this shloka is not explicitly for pure devotees, for pure devotional service. Yeah. But Krishna is still highlighting here that even if one is not a pure devotee, but they perform some, spiritual activities, devotional activities in this life, there will be no loss. And we in this material world, we talk everything is measured in terms of loss and gain, right? So if we are getting something where we have an assurance that there will not be any loss, it will be only fools who will not take it forward, right? So we don't lose anything in this. And the same thing, this is mentioned in, of course, Bhagavad Gita by Krishna. Same thing we see in Bhagavatam, where it is mentioned, similar meaning. Yeah. So Tyaktva swadharmam charanambujam hare bhajan apakvota patet tato yadi yatra kva va bhadram abhud amusyatim ovartra apto bhajatam swadharmatah. So one who has forsaken his material occupation to engage in devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage. Yet, there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. So we have to think of our long term, right? So here it is clearly mentioned that, a person who is not doing this devotional activities, they are doing completely involved in their material duties. In the end, they don't, gain anything. Yeah. So the meaning is similar to the prior verse. Yeah. And we have seen, several instances in our scriptures. Like, I don't know if you know about Bharat Maharaj. So Bharat Maharaj was a very renowned king, in his kingdom. And he left his kingdom and he went to the forest, for renunciation. He took renunciation and he wanted to perform spirituality, and he went to the forest. And there, after many successful performing the bhakti and his penances, towards the end of his life, he actually got attracted by a deer in the forest. The deer was really beautiful, and he got so attached to that deer that, he forgot his spiritual practice. And with that attachment, his day and night, which was spent into spiritual practice, he spent only taking care of that deer. And while he was, while death came to him, when he was dying, he was thinking about the deer as well. So next life, Krishna says in Gita, whatever one is remembering during their death time, they are sure to get that in their next life. So Bharat Maharaj gets the birth as a deer in his next life, right? But by Krishna's grace, and because he had done so much of devotional activities in his past life, he could remember, his past life. So he himself, as a deer, he underwent penances. He went to the ashram of sages and used to just eat dry grass and stay. And, and then we see how in next life he got, as a pure devotee. So this devotional practice, there is no loss here. That's what is the bottom line we need to understand. Right? Now, when we are talking about there is no loss, what is the qualification for us to get that? How can we, get detached to the results? How can we not fear, right? So this is the shloka which comes in. And it is again very important because it talks about, Krishna is describing the qualification we need to perform bhakti or buddhi yoga. Yeah. So it is like vyavasayatmika buddhir ekah purunandanaha bahushakahi anantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. So Reshma ji, will you be able to read it?
Yes, ma'am. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched.
Thank you. So what is he saying? One-pointed intelligence. And he is giving, he's saying vyavasayatmika buddhi. Vyavasaya is what? Is business. So we should have one-pointed intelligence as a businessman. So if you have, I think most of you must have come across businessman in your life. So what is a general businessman thought process? It's like their aim is only to have, how can I make money, right? No matter where they go, whom they meet, they see them from that perspective, that how can they add to their ultimate outcome, right? So it is their job, right? So as long as they can earn money or have any profit, they can meet anyone and they can meet them anywhere, right? We see how not only in India, businessmen of India are spread across the world, right? And most of the time when they meet people, their only objective is how can this meeting of mine with this person, how can this person help in their business growth, right? So Krishna is saying, just like a businessman who always aims to have material gain, we should always aim, the devotees should always aim for spiritual path. Yeah. So he says clearly that it should be one-pointed, just not many branched. Yeah, it's like, when in this verse, like Krishna is telling that what devotee needs to possess, right? We need to think just single focus. Our focus should be that anything I do, my Krishna conscious activity should not be impacted, right? And I should be able to perform my Krishna consciousness activity in a day, right? We should not keep, if something comes in, we are getting busy, our priorities change, right? That's what Krishna is saying. We should be one-pointed. Yes, perform your prescribed duties, but the priority should be set well. It should be one-pointed, that my priority, which is Krishna, performing activities for Krishna, should not be compromised. Yeah? So we can take this, understand this with an example here. That, yeah. So what do we see here? A person is most probably traveling and trying to, put quite a lot of things within that suitcase, right? Now, that's why we have mentioned here, when desires crowd our mind, then dilemma cloud our intelligence. So say if we are traveling and we want to, there are some, right? We see people across who wants to carry almost entire house with them, right? And then comes the difficulty to, accommodate those during the traveling. Now, to have the entire house is not possible, but just because that is not possible, it doesn't mean that we don't travel, right? We need to prioritize things. We have to pick the most important thing so that we are able to take those during the travel rather than canceling the travel. It will be silly, right? So that shows that, we need to have a priority list, right? Similarly, when we are doing education, we all at some time point of our life must have chosen, I want to go into this line. I want to go into this specialization. Now, if we have too many specializations into our mind, then we will get confused, right? And that doesn't also mean that there are so many options, I'm getting confused, so let me not do anything itself. Just sit idle. No, right? So we don't have to give up, right? If we give up, then we will fail. So rather we have to streamline our thoughts and we have to prioritize, right? So when we are practicing Krishna consciousness, similar way, we need to be one-pointed. Yeah, we need to be determined. Like we have to be determined to study further. We have to be determined to travel. Similarly, we have to be determined to be one-pointed. Yeah. So, and for quite a lot of things, when we, time points of our life, when we see that we are not clear, we are confused. Why? Because what is the bottom line for that? If we try to, scrutinize it within ourselves, why are we confused? Because we have many desires, right? So, and when we have more desires, that's what is here. When we have more desires, then we end up being confused because our intelligence gets covered. Yeah, we want this, we want that, we want everything, right? It's good to have desires, but not for self. If they are aligned with us performing Krishna consciousness activities, then yes, those desires are rightly placed. Yeah, but not material. Okay, so yeah, so just a note from the purport which Prabhupada has given, that serious devotee of Krishna is defined by sense of purpose and urgency. Instructions of spiritual master should be our life and soul. Yeah? The way materialistic people see everything in terms of, finance gain, yeah, material gain, opulence, right? We should see everything as per if there is a spiritual gain. Yeah. So we have to just, have that one-pointed intelligence. And why that one-pointed and not many branched? Then Krishna talks about the Vedas. Yeah. The people who are confused, whose mindset is many branched, Krishna is mentioning a bit more about it here. So I think the screen, okay. Yam imam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipashchitah vedavadarata partha nanyad vidvadinah kamatmanah swargapara janma karma phala pradhan kritya vishesha bahulam bhogaishwarya gatim prati. So Shivani Khaki, will you be able to read?
Hare Krishna. Many of small knowledge are very much attached to flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. Bhagavad Gita 2.42-43. Thank you.
Thank you. So Krishna knew that, people in general in Kali Yuga are not very intelligent, right? Why? He especially highlights here that men of small knowledge means unintelligent. Yeah, they are very much attached to the flowery words of Vedas, right? So it's like this is Vedas. Actually, we need to understand very clearly that Vedas cater to different, groups of people, to have, for them to gradually purify. Yeah, Vedas talk from karma kanda to bhakti yoga, from sinful actions also. So it is like Vedas are catering to different people who belong to different levels of yoga ladder, or even below the yoga ladder, who do not fall within the yoga ladder. Yeah, so like karma kandis and sinful people, right? So because Vedas purpose is, what is the purpose of Vedas? Vedas wants to cater these people so that by performing these, activities or rituals, they can gradually elevate, to the topmost, which is bhakti yoga. Yeah. So the word here, it is mentioned as avipashchitaha. So actually, vipaschitaha means one who has the power of discrimination, one who is intelligent enough to have the discrimination, power. Whereas here, Krishna has mentioned these people as avipaschita. Yeah. So this is that they do not have the power of discrimination. They cannot differentiate. Yeah. The flowery of words of Vedas. Yeah. So the supposed followers of Vedas, it says here, Veda Vada Rata Partha. That means these people who follow Vedas, they think that there is nothing else in Vedas other than just karma-kandic activities. Yeah. And it's mentioned here that what do they, expect as an outcome? It's kamatmanaha. Yeah. It is swargapara. So they desire to go to Swarga, right? And they think that that is all Vedas talk about, to perform some activities, fruitive results, and then as a part of that results, we can go to Swarga. Yeah. But actually, that is not only what Veda talks about. This is just a portion of Vedas. And that's what Krishna is saying here. They just get attracted by these results, like going to heavenly planets, good birth, power in their next life, something like that. But, and they say that there is nothing more than this. And for those category of people, Krishna calls us, unintelligent fools, right? So we saw in last class that map, if any of you remember, how be it heavenly planets or the planets below Earth, everything falls within this universe. And no matter where you go, we have to undergo the cycle of birth and death. There is no full stop to it. Yeah. So if we see, like we have learned, right, there is an, say, if we are talking about zero being in there and then negative axis starts on the left side and positive starts on the right side, right? So we can say that this negative axis is nothing but negative, is the karma kanda activities, right? And the zero, which is the neutral, we can say is the person who is in knowledge, which can be Jnana Yoga, right? But the positive side of the axis can be only Bhakti Yoga. Yeah. So we need to, we should not get attracted to the flowery language of Vedas. Yeah. Because the essence of Vedas, what is the essence? Krishna has mentioned, in 15th chapter, that the main purpose of Vedas is to know him, that he is the supreme. But people forget the main part of it. They just pick up, the rituals, and they just do the rituals so that they can gain something out of it, right? But even gaining that, they have to still undergo the death and birth cycle, right? And the same depression and everything, what we have to do, right? So Krishna also highlights in this shloka, what are the obstacles? Why do we struggle to have this one-pointed intelligence? When Krishna is saying there is no loss in this yoga, when Krishna is also giving the qualification that we should have one-pointed, we can say that, it's difficult, right? And Krishna highlights here that in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place, right? So if we are too attached, and we have given the photo of here, the picture of Dhritarashtra, right? We know how much materially attached he was. By that attachment, what did he land up? He had 100 sons and he lost all of them, as well as the kingdom, right? So it's just not Dhritarashtra, we commonly see ourselves. These two obstacles which Krishna is highlighting, our sense enjoyment, which is self-enjoyment, and material opulence, that expectation of opulence, right? These are the two, obstacles for us to get that one-pointed Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, that confidence that only this can take me, So we undergo this as well, right? We know that spirituality is right. Doing, Krishna, bhakti is right. Devotional service is right. But we understand the ultimate aim, right? But we are not able to follow. Why? Because of this attachment, right? Of sense enjoyment and material goods, right? So just coming again, Krishna again highlights on Vedas, a bit more here, that after he talks about, people who follow just Vedas are unintelligent. The flowery words of Vedas are unintelligent. So now Krishna is advising Arjuna to rise above this, Vedic karma kanda activities, just the rituals, right? And this is a very important shloka. So, Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna, Nirdvando Nitya Sattvastu, Niryoga Kshema Atman. So I'll just read this. So the Vedas, Krishna is highlighting, they deal with what? They deal mainly with the three modes of material nature. What are those three modes? We learned this in 9 sessions. So mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. Okay. So, O Arjuna, become transcendental to 3 modes. So that's what Krishna is saying. Go above to good and bad. Go to that Shuddha Sattva, which I just mentioned, right? And he also says that be free from all dualities and from all anxiety for gain and safety, and be established in self. So it is very clearly mentioned that these Vedas are mainly deal with those 3 modes of nature. Yeah. So fruitive activities, right? And this is for, this part is also for, people to gradually elevate. That's the purpose of these parts of Vedas, so that people can gradually elevate from sense gratification to a position of transcendental Krishna Bhakti. Yeah. So here, I think I'll just move further, conscious of time. So, yeah, so Jyotiji, will you be able to read this?
Yes. All purpose served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purpose of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them.
So now clearly, I think we can see the difference here, right? So in prior times, we see that there were, we had different wells, right? We used to use water from well, and they were used for different purposes, right? Like washing clothes or bathing, something like that. So, but when we see a river, we see that the river can serve all the purposes which a small well can serve, right? Even beyond to what a small well can serve. Yeah. So similarly, these Vedic literature, they talk about fulfilling desires, right? But the ultimate purpose for us from the Vedas is to reach back to Krishna, right? So we need to understand that. And Krishna, like I said, he has clearly mentioned that he's in 15th chapter, 15th verse, that he is the compiler of Vedanta. And also he is the one who should be known by the Vedas. Yeah, we'll come across this as we go in future chapters as well. Yeah. So what does that mean? Once you know the main purpose, yeah, you will work towards that purpose, right? Why would you work towards a smaller purpose, right? So that's the gist of this. And this is the last shloka we covered today, which is the most famous. I think maybe I will allow one of you to step up and read this, because I'm sure all of us have at least 2 or 3 common shlokas of Bhagavad Gita we all know, and this is one of them. Would someone want to try it? It's Karmannevadikaraste.
Yes, I can. Karmannevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phale hetu bhurmate sargo sattva karmani. Sorry.
That's fine. Thank you. Very nice. So, right. So after talking that this Buddhi Yoga does not have any laws, after talking that it's the unintelligent people who follow, the flowery words of Vedas, and then Krishna talking about, how we should go above the Vedas, right? Go above the good and bad, about these 3 modes, right? Krishna is now saying that how should we work, right? If we are not doing that, then we should work detachment to results. Yeah. So it is very important shloka where, where Krishna highlights that you have a right to perform your prescribed duties, right? But you're not entitled to the fruit of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activity, and never be attached to not doing your duty, right? Now, when we see most of the people, they are perfect in the first line, Karmannevadikaraste, right? And they highlight this. When we ask that, why are you not doing spiritual activities like chanting, reading, hearing about Krishna? They say that no, Gita is saying that we have to just perform our karma, Karmannevadikaraste. So we have to just, even Krishna says in Gita that you have to just keep doing your work, your duty. And you have the right to do your work, right? That's what Krishna is saying here, actually, right to perform your duty. But the following lines are not really, seen much, right? They assume that the first line is the conclusion of the shloka, right? So, and because and what makes them think that if Krishna is saying they have right to perform the duty, then they have the right for the results of the duty as well. Right? So that's how they take it as the first line. Yeah. But we have to, like Krishna is saying, we have to think beyond, right? Beyond these modes. So we have to think beyond just this prescribed duties. Yeah. What is beyond that? The end result is to satisfy Krishna, right? So he says in the second line that not entitled to the fruit of action. So Krishna is clearly saying, you just perform your duty, but you're not entitled for the results what you get. Action is performed by you, but you're not entitled for the action, right? So real purpose of doing the duty, that means is to satisfy Krishna. That's what Krishna is saying. Yeah. While the end result, whatever we get, We may, end up eventually getting some material gain also when we do the duty. Even if we don't expect any result, we may get some material gain, but that material gain should be our secondary objective. Our primary thing should be to satisfy Krishna. And then, when we perform our duties, that satisfy Krishna, yeah, without worrying about the results. Yeah, and he clearly says we are not entitled to. So the primary thing for us should be to satisfy Krishna, and the secondary thing, if we get any material gain out of it, that's fine. That is to satisfy, self, right? So, but in today's world, we see this prioritization has become opposite, right? When people do something, their primary aim is to satisfy self. And some may have a secondary gain to satisfy Krishna, and some may even, most of them may even not have a secondary aim at all. Yeah. So overall, what our scriptures are saying is the first step is for us to perform our duties, both spiritual and material. We learned that we have two types of duties, right? Spiritual and material. Yeah. And it is while we do both, we get purified, right? And as we get purified, our knowledge awakens. That knowledge that we are nothing but, our main duty is to serve Krishna. We are servants of Krishna, right? And that servant of Krishna, when we are serving somebody, even in this material world, you take a relationship where we are serving somebody, yeah? We don't expect results. We are serving just so that by just serving, we get that joy, happiness. So when Krishna has created this whole world and everything, why can't we have that serving attitude? That is what is devotional service. We have to serve Krishna, and just by serving, we get that joy. We are not looking for the results. Yeah. And see, regardless of what the results is, Krishna is not depending on being happy with us or not, depending on the results which come out of our duty. He will be happy by just seeing us to be performing that duty for him, just by the efforts which we put, yeah, to get closer to him, right? That is enough. That is the main thing what he sees. Doesn't matter what the results are, yeah? So overall, we need to, then third line here is, Ma karma phala hetur bhur. That is, never consider yourself the cause of the results, right? When we do something, we feel that we are working. So we should get the result. Why is, Krishna saying that we should not even, think that we are the cause of the results, right? Now, in later chapters, we'll see that Krishna is trying to say we are not the only cause of the results. Along with us, there are other factors, which influence for a result to happen. So we see ourselves, we learned this in the 9 sessions, that it's the same us. We put the same amount of effort into something in a day, in an activity. And sometimes we see that it really comes out very well. And sometimes we see that it doesn't, right? So that clearly shows that we are not the only factor which can be the cause for the result. There are other factors. That is very important for us to understand. Yeah. So, and sometimes people also think that, that after reading the top 3 lines, we perform the duty, we are not entitled for the fruits of action, and we should not consider ourselves the cause of action also. Then people say that why the hell should I perform the duty then? If I'm not, and if you are not entitled for the fruits, nor I am the cause, let me not do anything. Let me just sit idle. And that's why Krishna highlights the 4th line as well. So never be attached to not doing your duty. You have to just do your duty. Yeah, that is very important. So you should not be just sitting that nothing is in my hand, so let me just sit idle. No. Yeah, we have to continue to perform our duty, because only that duty will purify us. That is the only way we can get purified, and we can start, removing that dust in our heart, to get into, and like I said, our true nature as a jiva is that what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said is, Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nityadas. So we are the eternal servants. Our main duty is to serve Krishna. I'm just going to go a bit quick, and I just have 2 or 3 slides more. And then in the end, we'll take up any questions we have. Yeah. So there are three different levels, what we have seen so far. A person works. First one is working for results. Just do the activity and, from a results oriented, right? I want the result. And the second one is doing the duty with a mindset that it will purify us so that I can ultimately go to Krishna. Okay. And the third level, the top level, is doing the duty only to please Krishna. Yeah, to make Krishna happy. Yeah, and that comes with when we have the love component, right? Slowly going. When we are talking about working for results, there is no spiritual understanding here at all. Yeah, it's like karmic activities, just expecting results. Yeah, and here it will purify us. We have a pretty good understanding of spirituality overall, right? And then the top level is to please Krishna, right? So, so next, yes. So I will just quickly go through this. So I think I've mentioned all of this, right? So we discussed this. So we have the right to do our work, karmanyavadikaraste, not only material, but also spiritual. And then we don't have rights for fruits of our karma. Yeah. So ma phaleshu kadachana. That doesn't mean that I've given an example here that we are cooking. It doesn't matter to me how this comes out. I'm not worried about the result. So we just cook how we want, just by throwing too much salt. No, right? So, yeah, our duty is, we should do our duty so that we should clearly know that what will get out of it, purification and illumination. That is knowledge awakening. Yeah. And what should be our primary objective? To please Krishna. Yeah. Similarly, we saw this story where it highlights that for Krishna, the intention matters, not the result. We saw this story in 9 sessions as well, where while they were building the bridge in Ramayana, how Hanuman and his team was putting big rocks, and a squirrel was trying to just push small part of the sand to help what possible to Rama. And how Hanuman, he came and he said that, what is the use of putting the small tiny particles? You just move away, And then how Ramji came and he said that for him, both of them are equal level. They add equal value because they are both trying to serve their best, So our intention, their intention, was the same. And that is what matters to Rama or Krishna, right? Not the outcome. As the result, the squirrel could only accommodate so much and the monkeys could so much, right? So Krishna looks at our consciousness, at our intention. Yeah? Okay. So the same thing here, the third and fourth line of the shloka, because the shloka is so important for us to understand. Yeah. So we should never consider ourselves the cause of the result. In this way, when we start looking that everything depends on Krishna, yeah, then we ourselves see how gradually we start getting detached. Our acceptance level increases. Okay, maybe this was supposed to. It's Krishna's decision. So this has happened this way. So our gradual acceptance within ourselves increases. Yeah, that shows we are getting detached to the result because we are able to accept the results as they are coming in a better way. It will not happen overnight, but gradually we'll see how much we were attached to results, to some particular outcome for an activity before. But once you start into spiritual consciousness, you will see that you're still attached, but a much better way, much, lower side of it, right? So our highest goal should be to please Krishna, and only that can help us. So overall, the baseline is we have to keep doing our best and leave the rest to Krishna and let Krishna do the rest. Yeah. So yes, with that, we end the session today. And